The wind sang its cold song across the high plains, a low and lonesome howl that slipped through every crack in the cabin's rough-hewn walls. Inside, the fire had shrunk to coals, barely breathing. Ronan sat in the silence, boots propped near the dying heat, rifle across his knees. The lantern on the table flickered its last drop of oil, casting his shadow long against the log wall behind him. The bottle beside his elbow was near empty. He didn't drink for taste, just forgetfulness. Still, the past clung like a burr. Outside, snow fell in fits, not the soft kind but sharp-edged, like flakes made of bone. It was a bitter night, the kind that kept ghosts walking and men inside, unless they had nowhere left to go. He heard the knock once. Soft, thought it was the wind. Then again, louder. Not a demand, more like a last chance. Ronan stood slow. 30 winters had taught him to distrust mercy and expect knives behind kindness. He stepped to the door, silent as habit. One glance through the side slit he'd carved years back showed nothing but swirling snow. The third knock wasn't loud. It was barely a whisper. But behind it, a voice broke the dark. "I'm freezing. Let me in, I beg you. I'll reward you." He froze. That voice didn't sound white. Didn't sound safe. It sounded done. His fingers hovered near the latch. Old instinct screamed. People came with tricks. Refugees came with pursuers. A woman alone at his door in this storm. It didn't add up. Unless... Another whisper, weaker now. "Please, just warmth. I'll give you anything." He opened the door. What stood there didn't threaten. It barely stood at all. A girl, no a woman, but slight, wrapped in a torn blanket. Black hair crusted with ice. Bare feet, red and cracked, like someone had walked miles over thorns and snow. Apache, he was sure, or close to it. She looked up once, eyes not begging but resigned. Then she fell forward. He caught her before she hit the wood. Her skin was fire and ice, burning fever beneath frozen flesh. He carried her inside like a bundle of sticks, laid her near the hearth, stripped off the snow-heavy blanket, then hesitated. She wore deerskin beneath, torn at the shoulder. One arm was wrapped in cloth, soaked dark. Blood, maybe worse. He fed the fire first. That was survival. Stoked it until the flames licked high. Then wrapped her in the buffalo robe he kept only for hunting nights. Her lips moved, but no sound came. Her eyes fluttered like a dying bird's. Ronan worked quietly. Water warmed on the stove. He fetched an old tin cup, touched it to her lips. She didn't drink, but her cracked mouth twitched like maybe she remembered how. He watched her for a long time, not with desire. Something older, something he couldn't name. When her breath slowed into steadiness, he leaned back, poured himself the last of the whiskey, and stared into the fire as the storm thrashed the walls like a thing alive. An hour passed, maybe more. Then she stirred. Her voice was rough, distant. "You're not cavalry." He blinked. "No, you got the look of one." Had the look. She tried to sit up, failed and winced. "You'll tear something," he said. "You're wounded." She didn't thank him, didn't ask where she was. Just said, "If they find me here, they'll burn this place. And you with it. That right?" He took a long swallow, eyes on the flames. "They killed a man yesterday. Thought it was me." Her eyes met his, glassy but sharp. Wasn't. He didn't ask who they were. That kind of talk didn't come from liars. Not in that tone. "You a criminal?" She laughed, dry as dust. "Aren't we all—" He didn't smile. "Name?" he asked. "You first." He paused. "Then, Ronan." She closed her eyes again, not in fear. More like trust was something she didn't have to give. So she didn't bother trying. "Call me Lilyui." The name meant nothing to him, but he nodded just the same. "What's the reward?" he asked finally. "You said you'd give me something." She looked at him for a long beat. "My life, or trouble, depending how this ends." That sounded right. Ronan didn't ask more. The storm still howled outside, louder now. The snow had thickened against the glass, smothering all signs of the world beyond. In here, only the fire moved. She dozed again, not peacefully. Her face twitched in sleep, as if chased by something no one could outrun. He noticed then the brand on her shoulder. Not tribal, not military, something else, burned in with hate. He looked away. Later, when she spoke again, it was barely more than breath. You could have let me die. He didn't answer. The question wasn't question. It was a reckoning. Outside, a branch cracked under the weight of snow. Inside, two people lay between silence and story, both knowing the fire wouldn't burn forever. By morning, the storm had softened but not passed. The world beyond the windows was blank and soundless, the kind of white that could swallow a man whole. Inside, the fire had burned low again. Ronan rose before the sun, as he always did, checked the door, checked the rifle, checked her. She lay curled on her side, still breathing. The fever had broken sometime in the night. Her cheeks had more color now, though the skin beneath her eyes was shadowed like bruises. She didn't stir when he moved, but her hand had curled instinctively around something hidden in her coat, a blade maybe or bone. He didn't disturb it. Instead, he made coffee thick and black and leaned against the counter, watching the window as if it could speak. Snow still fell, but lighter now. If someone was coming, they'd find the tracks soon. His boot prints, her collapse, her being carried in. He didn't like the shape of that thought. When she finally stirred, she sat up too fast, eyes wide and wild until they settled on him. He said nothing, just handed her the tin cup. She took it with both hands, not meeting his eyes. "Still here," she muttered. "You expected otherwise?" "I expected worse. You said men were hunting you. Lawmen. Something like that." He let it hang. She drank in slow sips. "Your Apache?" "Was." He raised a brow. She smiled, but was bitter. "Belonging is a thing you lose quick. Out here." He understood. Maybe too well. Her voice was stronger now. "They say I killed a man." "Did you?" He needed killing. That landed heavy between them. He nodded once, slowly, then turned to the stove. "Food!" She didn't answer, but her shoulders eased. He took that for yes. As he stirred beans into a pan, he heard her moving, barefoot on the wood, slow but quiet. She stood behind him before he spoke. "Rifles on the table. You could take it. I wouldn't stop you. I'm not stupid. That remains to be seen. You let me in. I don't shoot men who do that." "That's a good policy," he said. She tilted her head. "Why'd you do it?" He shrugged. "Didn't want a corpse on my doorstep." She laughed, dry and almost cruel. "And here I thought you were soft. Don't make that mistake." Her eyes scanned the room. The spare furniture, the worn floor, the stitched wound a mirror cracked and nailed back together. "You live alone?" "Yes." "Long time." "Long enough." She nodded like that explained everything. Maybe it did. He served the beans in silence. They ate at the table, opposite each other like some accidental marriage neither asked for. Her hands shook a little when she lifted the spoon. He pretended not to see. Outside, the sun fought to pierce the clouds. It lost. She set her tin bowl down. "They'll come looking." "I figured. If they find me here, you warn me already." She leaned forward. "Then why haven't you kicked me out?" Ronan stared at her, his face unreadable, carved in stillness. Then, "Because the men who come won't care if you're guilty, just that you're a woman who ran. And I've seen enough of that kind of justice." She didn't speak for a while. When she did, her voice was low. "They think I took something from him." "Did you?" "Yes." He waited. "A ledger. Names. Numbers. Orders. It's proof that he and others did things the army would burn to keep buried." She reached into the folds of her coat and pulled out a weather-stained journal, leather-bound, blackened along the spine. She set it on the table between them like it might start burning on its own. Ronan didn't touch it. He kept records of land seized, of people moved, of bribes paid. He thought no one would understand what it meant. "Do you?" Enough to know he wasn't alone. He looked at her with new weight in his gaze. "And what do you want with it?" "I want to live long enough to give it to someone who will use it." Ronan stood, and walked to the window. Snow fell softer now, drifting sideways like ash. His voice came slow. You killed a decorated officer, stole army secrets, and now you're hiding in a stranger's cabin. She smiled. Seems that way. You said there'd be a reward. This it. She stood too. It could be, if you want to fight for something besides yourself. He turned to face her. His jaw was tight. I've done my share fighting. Most of it turned to dust in my hands. You still breathing. That counts for something. Their eyes held. Neither moved. Then she said quietly, I need to get to Black Mesa. That's Apache land. They won't trust me. Why should they? Because I bled for truth. That should count for something, too. Ronan nodded slowly. You'll never make it alone. Not in this weather. Not with that wound. I know. She didn't say more. Didn't need to. He looked down at the ledger. Then at her. She didn't flinch. A knock came then, soft, sudden, cruel. Both of them froze. Not wind. Not ghost. Just outside the door. Footsteps. Then silence. Ronan reached for the rifle before the second knock landed. His finger found the trigger like it had 1,000 times before, instinct overriding thought. Lilia didn't move, but her eyes sharpened. She slipped behind a hearth and flattened against the wall. Her fingers ghosting the knife she kept hidden beneath her coat. Another knock, then a voice, slick and smooth, like melted tallow. Cold morning to be calling on neighbors. Mind if we step in? Ronan didn't answer. He stepped to the door slow, like walking through wet clay, and peered to the narrow slit beside the frame. 2 men, horses behind them, steaming in the chill. The first man wore a long gray duster and a bowler hat too clean for a true drifter. The second was taller, face bearded and worn, eyes flat and wolf-like. Bounty men, not the kind who wore 10 stars, but the kind who polished them when needed. You Ronan, the man in the duster called. Got word a fellow lived up here alone. Wondered if he might have seen someone pass through. Girl, dark hair, might be hurt, might be dangerous. Ronan opened the door enough to show his face, but not the cabin. Snow's too deep for travelers, he said. No one's come through. The man smiled with all teeth and no warmth. That's so. The other one didn't speak, just watched, like he already smelled blood. You mind if we look around? The talker asked, just to be sure. I do. The taller one shifted his weight. You got something to hide? He asked. Ronan didn't blink. Only thing hiding here is the cold. They stared at each other, long enough for frost to gather between them. Then the talker chuckled. Well, that a mighty private tone for a man with no stake in this business. Then take your business back down the mountain, Ronan said, and shut the door in his face. He turned. Lilia stood straight now, her jaw set. They'll come back, she said. I know. They're not amateurs. I know. She stepped toward the table and picked up the ledger, cradling it like a child. They'll burn this place. Let 'em, Ronan said. It's never been a home, just a hole I fell into. She looked at him a long time, her face unreadable. Then she whispered, I should leave. You won't make it 10 miles. Then ride with me. He didn't answer. He stared into the fire, like it had something to say. Outside, hoofbeats faded, but not for long. She went to the back room and began to pack what little she had. When she returned, she wore a coat 2 sizes too big and a woven pouch tied across her chest. Black Mesa's 4 days hard ride, she said. There's an elder there, Takashim. He knows what this book means. He's protected people before. Ronan looked at her, then at the frost creeping along the edges of the window. He set the rifle on the table, leaned his weight on it. You'll skin me to fight? No, she said. I'm asking you to remember how. That stayed with him. He knelt by the hearth and lifted 2 loose stones. Beneath, wrapped in oilcloth, lay his past, Sharp's rifle, revolver, a dozen cartridges. Worn, oiled, still ready. Lilia watched him with something like reverence. Why'd you leave the war? She asked. He didn't answer until he rose. Because I realized I was on the wrong side of every bullet. They saddled the horses in silence. Ronan had two, an old sorrel mare and a younger roan that didn't trust easy. Snow clung to the barn roof in heavy drifts. The sky hung low, swollen with more storm. By dusk, they were packed and ready. Then came the smoke, a thin column rising from the trees. Too close. Not chance. Not campfire. They'd circled back. They're burning something, Lil said. Testing wind direction. Ronan muttered. Seeing if we run. They didn't run. Not yet. Instead, they waited. Watches traded through the night. Fire kept low. The woods crackled now and then with movement, but nothing showed. At dawn, hoofbeats again. 2 riders, maybe 3. Ronan crouched near the ridge with the rifle. Lil was hidden in the rocks behind him. They'll try to flush us, he said. Force a mistake. I don't make those, she replied. Everyone does. Once. When the first shot came, it cracked through the valley like a whip. Not close. A warning, not a kill. Ronan returned fire. Deliberate. Controlled. Then silence. When the wind shifted, the riders pulled back. Testing again. Tomorrow they'd try harder. Back at the camp. Lil crouched by the fire, shivering despite the flames. You think we'll make it? She asked. Ronan didn't speak for a long time. I think if we die out here, it won't be for nothing. She looked up. Then ride with me at dawn, she said. We take the canyon. Fast. Quiet. They won't expect it. He nodded once. That night, as the stars pressed cold against the black, Lil sang low under her breath. Not words he understood, but the way she sang, the sorrow in it. It reached places he'd long forgotten were still alive. He sat beside her, rifle across his knees, and listened until the sound faded into silence. The wind picked up. The fire cracked. And in that silence, they became something more than strangers, something closer to the kind of people they used to be. They left before first light, shadows moving through deeper shadow. The snow was thin in the canyon, but slick, and the rocks sweated frost. Ronan led, the Sharp's rifle strapped across his back, eyes sweeping the high ridges. Lil rode behind, her shoulders taut beneath the buffalo hide. Neither spoke. Breath steamed in silence. Every hoofbeat was a wager. Every echo a prayer, not yet answered. The canyon narrowed ahead, its sandstone walls stained ochre and ash. Raven cries echoed overhead. Ronan halted and raised a hand. Lil pulled her mare close behind his. He saw it then, a glint above the ledge. Sun on steel. Ambush, he muttered. A shot cracked. Stone burst near his boot. Ride, he barked. They spurred forward. Gunfire erupted behind them. Bullets hissed like insects. Lil leaned low in the saddle, gripping the reins with white knuckles, the ledger thumping against her chest like a second heartbeat. The canyon twisted right. Ronan wheeled the roan through, then vaulted from the saddle as a rifleman stepped into the path. He tackled him into the rocks, steel flashing. The struggle was close, hot breath and blood. A blade nicked Ronan's cheek. He crushed the man's windpipe with the butt of the rifle. Lil had dismounted too. Her horse had taken a shot to the flank and bolted. She stood on shaky legs, revolver in hand, eyes scanning the ridge. Another rider came fast from the rear. Ronan shot once. The man pitched from the saddle like a sack of meat, face first into shale. Then silence. Again. Only their breath, rough and ragged. The canyon whispered with wind, brushing over blood-stained stone like it couldn't decide what to remember. Ronan knelt by the dead. They're thinning out. 2 left. Maybe 1. More could be coming, Lil said. We don't wait to find out. He tore a strip from his coat and wrapped his bleeding arm. Then they pressed forward, on foot now, leading the one good horse. Each step was earned. Each looked back a question they couldn't afford to ask. By noon, they reached the high mesa pass, wind-sheared and empty, the rock face rising like a fortress of rusted bone. Lil lips were cracked and bleeding, her voice barely a whisper when she spoke. Once we cross, we're on Black Mesa land. Ronan nodded, but the path narrowed here, just a single bridge of stone, maybe 20 paces long, flanked by a gorge so deep the wind had its own echo. Too easy to bottleneck, he said. You go first. She hesitated. I can't. Go. Now. She started across. Her figure grew small, a silhouette against sky. Halfway across, the wind kicked up hard. Then came the final rider. He rose like a ghost from the rocks behind, rifle slung low, a scar splitting his lip. One of the bounty men from the cabin. The quiet one. He didn't shout, just raised his weapon, slow and sure. Ronan turned. There was no cover, no time to think. He stepped out into the open, rifle raised, body between a man and Liu. Don't, Ronan said. The man smiled. You got no badge, no witness, and no chance. You want the ledger? Ronan said, Come get it. The man fired. The shot rang across the canyon, splitting the silence like a scream. Ronan dropped to one knee. Blood bloomed across his side. He fired back. The shot caught the rider square in the chest, knocked him off his feet, tumbling backward down the gorge, his body vanishing into wind and dark. Liu screamed his name. He slumped to the stone, legs buckling. His blood painted the dust. She ran to him, dropping beside him, hands trembling as they pressed against the wound. You fool, she whispered. You damn noble fool. He coughed, laughed wetly. Told you, I was done with running. You stay with me, she said. You stay, you hear? Ledger, give it to Taklashim. Tell him the scout made good in the end. She kissed his forehead, fiercely, as if that might bind him to the earth. Behind her, the wind shifted. Then came the riders. 3 of them, mounted and silent. Apache, but not armed for war. Elders, wrapped in wool and leather. One dismounted slowly, moving toward them with the patience of stone. Liu looked up, eyes wild with fear and hope. I am Liu, she said, daughter of Hala. I carry proof. I carry truth. And this man, he saved me. The old rider knelt. He touched Ronan's brow, then looked at the wound. We will ride, he said simply. They lifted Ronan onto a horse. He groaned but did not wake. As they crossed into Black Mesa territory, the sky began to clear, not warm, but light. Liu rode beside him, her hand on his chest to feel the heartbeat still struggling beneath. The ledger rested in her lap, heavy with names and sins. She whispered to him, over and over, You will not die forgotten. You will not die forgotten. And behind them, the wind scattered ash and hoofprints, and the pass gave way, at last, to something like beginning,